Hey guys, Adam Zilko here. I'm the CEO and founder of Firegang Dental Marketing. Today, I have the opportunity to bring on my good friend Chris from Mahan Associates. We're dealing with a lot of dental practices that are dealing with financial, issues at this stage. There's a lot of uncertainty in the economy, and so really, Chris is kind of the expert into helping dentists thrive, in and out of these cases, these situations. Chris, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate you being here, brother. Can you kind of introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit about what you guys do for those that don't know, and we'll just kind of kick it off there.
Sure. Thanks, Adam, and thanks for having me on this very timely podcast to hopefully share some good information to help those who are going through these uncharted territories navigate them and hopefully come out better on the other end of it. So, it's times like these, right?
Right. So tell me about Mahan Associates. What do you guys do? How do you help dental practices? Tell me a little bit about that in your company.
Sure. We've been doing it for 30 years this May. We specialize in financials, management consulting, operations analysis, tax strategy, tax preparation. We do payroll and HR, pension, and and consulting, practice management. So we do all things business when it comes to healthcare practices to help give them that resource and tool and platform that's coordinated to give them hopefully a better level of patient care, so to speak.
Awesome. And you guys, I know your business. I know you well. You guys are amazing at what you do, amongst the best, in my opinion. What are you seeing right now going on with your clients and in the industry from your perspective?
A lot of anxiety and not a lot of panic, which it's good to show the resolve. I think it's really nice to see the entrepreneurial spirit of a lot of the owner doctors that are really searching for ways to protect their team members and to strategize proactively on how to not only survive, but come out of this hopefully ready to go, because we will get through it. And when we do, what moves are they making today that will ensure not just a really great rebound, but something that hopefully they end up with potentially a better year given the time lag behind this. So they're looking at ways to, of course, take care of their employees in the short term, and what options are available to them is the number one concern today, right? With the American Dental Association and all the other corresponding state dental associations recommending that they close their offices for 3 weeks. They're wondering how they're going to fund expenses, overhead, what they can do to take advantage of this downtime, and how long it's going to last. Again, the Surgeon General today mentioned that it'd be 8 to 12 weeks. So that's longer than the 3 weeks that the dental associations have recommended. So I would assume if I was planning this out, to plan this to go into May at the earliest. So what do we do, and how do we take care of our businesses? How do we take care of our staff members? And what do we do during this downtime to potentially work on the business, since we won't be working in the business?
And what pieces of advice are you providing to your clients at this stage?
First and foremost is to take care of the employees. The employees are the number one asset in all businesses, and it's refreshing and satisfying to see that so many dental owners have called us and reaching out, and also sharing what they're doing to take care of their staff. Because everybody would like to just pay their staff while they're down, but these are small businesses and they can't afford just to pay the largest overhead item out of the practice without having revenues coming in. So they're looking for what's the best way to help keep their staff afloat, and that's the number one calls that I'm getting right now. And
how do you see them approaching that? Are they fully funding? Are they partially funding? Or what are you seeing the trend is?
Each practice kind of has their different trends. One of the first things that we're looking at practices doing is a temporary mass layoff. Now, I know that sounds bad, but what it does is, with most state unemployment departments or departments of labor, if you file that today, you go ahead and you do it as the employer, and you list your staff that are getting cut hours or no hours at all, and it'll go ahead and get them on the unemployment rolls, right? And everybody needs to remember that those unemployment benefits are not the government subsidizing income. Those employers pay that in quarterly to the federal unemployment and the state unemployment associations. So this is a benefit that these docs and these practices have been paying in for times like these, and the time to utilize those are now. The unemployment agencies or the state is really just a facilitator of the insurance, so to speak. Right. So we're recommending them going ahead and getting that filed now, just so they're on the roll, because typically how it works is if you're on unemployment, you will, you have to report once a week, say, did you get any wages? If you did, you don't get an unemployment check. If you didn't, they'll cut you an unemployment check. So that at least gets, it's for the long-term plan, because I've got a lot of clients that are cashing out and are electing to have their staff pay out their PTO or their vacation time through this. Some staff don't have it. So if you do it in one shot, the ones that are getting paid their PTO can just report the state unemployment, hey, I'm getting paid I'm getting paid, and they won't get an unemployment check that week, right? So it hopefully minimizes any interruption in revenues or cash coming to those employees for that benefit that the practices have already paid on a quarterly basis.
That's really good advice. Anything else that you're telling your clients? Right now, I'm telling them, of course, keep as much cash as you can on hand, right? Because we don't know how long this will go. Liquidity is paramount. Some of them are deferring some of their investment into elective 401k contributions for the owners and those things if they don't have a cash stockpile. I've also seen some that do have the cash that are doubling down and investing their 2019 and 2020 pension contributions right now because stocks are on a discount, right? Right. So that's happening, and we're watching it day by day because there will be more legislation out of Washington probably this weekend where they'll have income subsidies for employees that have been affected by this. And when I say that, that'll be basically unemployment, subsidies. And I've heard anything from 60% up to $85,000 a year, if that's what they make, can be paid to them in terms of a living stipend, so to speak, which will really help mitigate a lot of this. Also hearing, word from, and watching and monitoring Congress that they'll be doing the same thing for business owners. And I've seen that the American Dental Association and the AGD are both lobbying Congress to make sure that dentistry is included in that and gets, because they've been all but officially shut down due to the regulatory agency's recommendations. So I fully anticipate there will be income replacement for these owners and their practices. Don't know what that is, but we're monitoring, and as we see it, I'll let you know so we can get it out there and let everybody know where to go and how to go get it. Because if they can keep even half of their revenues or 35% coming in, then they'll be able to cover payroll and have money to invest in the practice during this downtime. And if they can invest in the practice in the terms of systems, in terms of marketing, in terms of, they can come out of this postured to have the best second half of a year that they've ever had. Yeah, I think that, it's not like people aren't going to still need treatment, right? So right. Coming out of this, it's how do they capture people going in, and then how do they make sure that they can leverage that coming out of this? My guess is that people will still invest the money throughout the remainder of the year, especially if they do see additional, an additional injection of capital back into the market. Just, how do we capitalize on that? What things do you see dental practices doing now that they really shouldn't be? What, maybe they're overreacting, or they're making quote unquote knee-jerk reactions at this stage that really they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think I think there's ways to mitigate and harvest your cash flow without doing things. But look at your cash flow and what you're spending, and I would mitigate all cash flow that's not going to directly grow the practice, right? Any cash expenditures that you have that's going to help grow the practice even further, because like you said, the clinical need, there's going to be the same number of crowns that need to be done in 2020 that needed to be done in 2019. So we're going to have a blackout period for being able to do those services, but there's going to be a huge demand for it once we turn it back on, right? So this is a great opportunity because many practices are cutting out, again, the things like any kind of consulting or systems builds or marketing or those types of things. And those are the things that I would recommend that they keep, because that's going to give them the competitive advantage. As many of their peers are cutting those, if they invest in them, I think that'll give them a tremendous opportunity to grow their practice the day these doors open back up.
Yeah, I remember back in 2012, 2011, 2010-ish, I remember talking to dentists, even into 14 and 15, that when we would analyze their multi-year revenue stream and year-over-year growth and so on, a lot of them said that, after 2008, 2009, they were hit hard and they never really recuperated. Even into 2012, they didn't. But when we assessed everything, it was that they just cut back on all their marketing and investment back into the business. They just went into trying to just withhold everything, and they didn't recover for a long time. And it wasn't until 14, 15, 2016 or so, they started to reinvest and they started to see things come back. But that was a lot of years of missed opportunity. And I wonder, it's my guess that we're going to see a lot of that again. And when we assess practices that didn't turn those things off, they, for a short period, they sure were affected like everyone else, but they came back out of it stronger. They were capitalizing on it more. And as you mentioned, with everyone else stopping their advertising, what we find is that you can buy advertising for much cheaper. It's easier to stand out and really easier to grab more market share. And that's the thing that we've really started to see. In fact, you see that right now with a lot of like DSOs, for example. They're doubling down. They're going all in on these things. They're not stopping anything because they realize that that's going to hurt them long term for potentially a short term win.
Exactly.
And that's unfortunately, as a marketing company, Firegang, we're starting to see some of that. We see, some clients that are saying, hey, I can't afford this. I need to stop it all, turn it all off. And then others are like, we want to know what we can do next to get ahead of this and gain more market share. How can we get out in front of more people and take advantage of this time when most people are turning their marketing off? And for those types of things, it's how, you and I talked previous to this, but how do you educate patients at this time as to what you're doing and build some trust? How do you stay in front of them with things that they are going to be interested in? So, patients still need emergency care. So is that something we can market now? Other areas of opportunity are marketing higher end services, but doing virtual consultants initially. Now we're working with practices to do that. So if someone needs implants, they're not going to not need implants in 3 months, right? When this is all over, how do we have those conversations now and start building those relationships now and getting them started at some capacity with the practice, even if it's through a virtual platform. One thing that a lot of people watching this won't know, one thing you might not know, Chris, is I own 50% of a medical practice, and it's 100% virtual. So for the last year and a half, we've been seeing and treating patients virtually and testing that, and it's worked incredibly well. There's really been no downside to it. And so I'm able to take that knowledge and actually inject that right back into our dental clients, dental practices, and they can leverage that in some capacity to start seeing patients now, where people are at home, moms and families are at home, they can start having those conversations, but now's really the time to get in front of them. And that's going to be, I believe it'll be those practices that really come out of this strong.
100%. There's that quote out there that says what? Stopping marketing to save money is like stopping a clock to stop time.
To save time. Yeah, it's from Henry Ford. And it's the same thing, right? It's what do we do right now that is going to allow us to come out of this stronger? And turning everything off and not doing anything, I think, is going to be the hardest thing. That's for our own business, we're not turning anything at all.
Right.
Things are going to slow down for us. We know that, but we're still going to continue to invest in creative forms of marketing. Again, that's one of the reasons we're doing this call now is how do I get out in front of more dental practices and help educate so that they know, and in turn get to know who we are and so on.
Well, right, and this is a tremendous opportunity. I mean, it's times like these that that the humans have historically had the most ingenuity, and whether it's war or natural disaster, some of the most life-changing discoveries have come about, right? And like what you mentioned, the telemedicine, right? That's been huge. Well, what CMS, has been issuing guidance for the past 3 or 4 days, and now CMS and all payers follow Anthem, and then Aetna, Cigna, they all follow CMS on the medical side on reimbursement. And now they're fully reimbursing. They've been, medical's been lobbying for years and been having to wrestle with the third-party payers to pay for telemedicine, teleconsults, and now guess what? They're paying full boat for it because they know that they have an access to care problem that now it's beside the money side of it, and they're going to be able to get a lot of patients seen without having to go fill up hospital and emergency rooms and those things. And to come into dentistry, it's the same thing. People can be marketing, cosmetic services and doing doing consults. Seen a lot of, really progressive, cosmetic dentists that have been doing that already. And you do the free consult, and they're sitting in their office just stacking up a ton of implants or cosmetic services to come in their office on May 1 or whenever this is over. And that's how you really take advantage of these types of things, right?
1,000,000%. Like I said, we've been doing that. I've been doing that with a business that I own for, a few years now, but you're hitting the nail on the head. And I think that it would be very smart of any practice, if they want to know more about it, reach out to us and ask. But we have systems in place right now that can help check all these boxes. We've been researching this for our clients for some time and starting to get some of them already set up. And it's just, I think this will be a catalyst to kind of move some of the practices over that edge and embrace it. There's been somewhat of maybe a resistance to change or a lack of bandwidth of resources to move into something like this. And this kind of removes all those roadblocks, and it becomes a necessity for them. And I think coming out of it, the ones that, again, embrace this, that actually move quick on it, can capitalize greatly because patients have no other option at this stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. In a couple of ways, again, they say, well, that's great, you're saying that. Well, how do we do it? Well, we got a roadmap, and they want to speak with their financial advisors or contact us or whomever to look at what they need to be paying and what they can do to open up cash flow right now, right?
Good.
And the first thing is they just passed, IRS just accepted and approved that 2019 tax liabilities that are due in full by April 15th are now due on July 15th. The first estimated payment that's typically due on April 15th is now due on July 15th, right? So the federal government is saying, you don't have to pay us, keep your money and do what you need to do, right? We've been speaking with bankers, and they've been getting a lot more guidance, and regulations have been freed up well more than they were in 2007 and 2008. And I've spoken with multiple bankers that are getting guidance from Treasury to automatically defer payments on long-term loans for 60 days with options to modify further if they need. So if you've got
6 months, yeah. SBA, for example, large organizations like Chase, they'll auto delay any SBA loans, probably others related to this, and then and have said that they'll go up to 6 months. They'll also offer options, variable payment options on credit cards, deferment on that as well. So there's other solutions for practices out there.
Yeah, exactly. They got the credit cards that you want to utilize that because the rates will be frozen or locked or lowered. You have the lines of credit. They're also pretty much giving lines of credit. And even Secretary Mnuchin said, that they're looking at ways to get credit or lines of credit or capital infused to small business owners and directly going around the banks. Going straight to the consumers in terms of, very low rate or even free. And some people are talking about non-recourse capital that's injected from the federal government into these businesses to keep them going. So we don't have to pay our tax bill yet, right? We can defer the long-term debt with little or zero interest. We can utilize the credit cards. And then if we get income subsidies from the federal government, how are you going to spend that dollar today? Right. And again, and the way, you know, the smart bet's going to be on what can you do to make sure your practice is growing, especially in a time when many of your peers are going to be pulling back on a lot of things. This may be time to hit the gas. When, you know, you're going to have, let's say, 3 to 5 weeks, right, of time to really work on your practice. And how have you always wanted your practice to be? Do you want it to be a different color? Do you like the patient flow? Have you really assessed, you know, the time that you spend on new patients and what procedures and who does what? Have you ever thought about running a team hygiene modality? Are you scheduling everything correctly? Do you have an attrition problem? Are you watching the back door? And how's your new patient flow? And is everything set up? And are you tweaking everything right now to make your practice better? Because, you know, you can sit at home and work on your short game, or you can knit or whatever, or you can get in and work on the business. And there's a lot of ways to do it right now. That's going to be a ton of opportunity for these practices to come back roaring better than they ever have been before. And I've got all the confidence in the world that many of them will. But like you said, some of those from 2008, you know, you talk to them in 2013 and 14, the ones that peeled back to pay nothing, do nothing, man, it took them forever, but they were just flatlined for so long. And they're kind of still are. I mean, it's 2020, and those that had that mindset and that approach to it, you know, they're kind of stuck, got stuck and got outrun, because once everything gets back to 100 miles an hour, market share doesn't shift very easy.
Yeah.
Today it does. Today it does.
Absolutely. Yeah, huge opportunities right now. So how can somebody that's interested in knowing more about you guys, how can they contact you?
Sure. They could go to our website at www.mahanassociates.com or email me at Chris, CHRIS, at Mahan, MAHAN, associates.com. And man, if anybody hears this or anybody has a question, a comment, a thought, send it my way, because we're all learning together on like every news clip, every post on our social media. We're finding something different, whether it's new, you know, treatments, you know, from other drugs that have a, you know, 100% treatment, you know, success right now that they're working through the FDA, to what they can do in their offices to make sure that their staff is taken care of. And I really believe that the federal government is going to step up and do an unprecedented job in doing it this time. So I think that as long as we put the staff first and they know that, hey, we're making sure that we're taking care of you to the best of our ability, and then investing in the practice and the practice growth, man, you're going to come in and really turn this thing into a great opportunity. You know, it's these times that are the biggest opportunities for those sharks, man, for those natural born killers that want to get out there and really stack it and grow their practices. This is the time that they can do it on a discount.
Yeah, great advice. I hope everyone reaches out to you that has an opportunity to watch this. You know, part of this is preparing for the current situation, but also preparing for your future and getting ahead of these cases. My guess is that your clients that are following your advice going into this are in a lot better spot than a lot of the practices that aren't, that haven't worked with you or following your advice and so on. So, you know, it's how do you prepare, how do you learn from this and prepare for your future? And I think that every practice would be smart to call you guys up and find a way to work together in any capacity. I think
sure.
The advice you guys provide is top notch.
Yeah, thanks so much. And again, I mean, they can call or, you know, just, or send an email and ask a question. I'm not going to, you know, say, here's the fee, right? I mean, we're all in this, you know, especially unique situation to help each other out. And, you know, Mahan and Associates, I know Firegang, you know, we're all in this to make sure that the market share in the dental industry not only comes out, you know, okay, but comes out much better. And I think that, you know, as long as we continue searching and identifying and helping deliver and help navigate through these opportunities, practices can come out a lot better than before.
Awesome. And if anyone, you know, has any questions for us, for me, just go to firegang.com or reach out directly through that, through that website. And, you know, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time today. Thanks for coming on and talking to me. And I hope this was a help to anyone that's watching it. We're here if you need us. So good luck.
Thanks a lot, man.
Awesome.